Hello, y'all. It's Desiree with Desiré Defined. This is the first episode of just a journey. I'm not even going to call it like a podcast. It's not a series. It's just really a documentary of my life, things that have happened in my life and things like that. So first, we are definitely starting with childhood. We'll go from like elementary, middle school, high school, sports, and then going into college. Of course, I know there's been a lot of anticipation about like what this is going to be about. So first episode is childhood. Yeah. So I kind of want to start with my first memories as a child. Honestly, I do remember. So my parents had, first let me start with my parents. My parents are such dynamic people. They are very, very strong-willed, strong-minded leaders. And honestly, I want to kind of start back. My parents met at the University of Central Florida. Dating life and all of that. Didn't necessarily like work out at University of Central Florida, but they found their way back together, after college, at least from my memory. And my father was being recruited for the NFL. My mother, she actually wanted to be a lawyer, which would have been crazy to have like a lawyer and a NFL star as a father. But honestly, I was a little surprised. And shocking enough, my mom actually told me that when she found out she was pregnant, of course they knew, she knew something was going on with her body, but she was not happy. Like, she was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm about to be a mom. And then when she called my dad, like, my dad was elated, like, very, very excited. And at that time, they decided to go different routes, with career and family and things like that. And they ended up getting married in February, February of 1998. So that's when they tied the knot, and then I was born July of that year. So my mom was pregnant while she was walking down the aisle. And when I was born, my mom said definitely having children changed her. And my father, he was like, just from my mom's comments and just how my dad speaks about being a father, he was super excited, like just to have, healthy baby and things like that. One thing I do remember, like, my mom telling me is when she was having me, my dad was very protective of me. So he followed me all around the hospital. There was a lot of babies being kidnapped in like the 90s. So he was following me all around, like not letting up on the doctor. So my grandmother stayed with my mom and my dad stayed with me. So yeah, it was just me for the first 3 years. And then my baby sister came. I take true pride in being a sister, honestly. And some of my earliest memories with her is just in like our house. Actually, like we had a house in Apopka. And I would just like play with her feet and stuff like that, and like say she has stinky feet just to like make her laugh. And, soon after that, like we had stairs in Apopka, and my father and my mother decided to build a house. So we ended up moving into an apartment not far from the Edenville area. And my father, who is a general contractor, he was able to build us a house. And this project, obviously, it took years. So we were in that apartment for some time. And once we like moved in the house, like we had a pool, we had like curved walls, super big, super spacious, and it was in Pine Hills. So yes, I am from Pine Hills, Florida. I spent a lot of my time in Eatonville, Florida. Because my parents had a daycare in Eatonville, Florida, but I am from Pine Hills. West Orlando is where I'm from. And in Pine Hills, there was a lot that happened actually, just surrounding our life. Like, my parents, I could really tell like when things were great and when things were, not so great, but they never really argued in front of us a whole lot. There were a few arguments that we saw or a few things that happened, but, they were really a strong unit, like together. And they had my parents' daycare. My parents opened up their daycare center because they needed a place for me to go when I was younger. So I was the reason why they opened up a daycare center, and that daycare center was open for about 12 to 13 years in Eatonville, Florida, Divine Individuals Daycare Center. And my mother never thought about like being a business owner, but my father has always had that entrepreneurial spirit. So my mother ran the daycare and my dad did so many other different things while being the co-owner. So like I said, he's a GC, general contractor, and he's written books, done mediation. My mom did teaching. She, now is all in training and development, but my mom ran the hell out of that daycare. And now being a business owner, I really understand why she was so tired after the day, because it takes a lot of brain capacity to deal with parents, children, business, payroll. It was technically a nonprofit, so it was a lot of things that I saw her do and I saw happen, like the free food, the summer program. Like, it was just a lot of things that my mom did that I didn't really appreciate until I got older, and I was like, this is what she means when she was mentally tired. So she would come home, and like my dad would be playing with her, like showing her love, and she was like, like, leave me alone, like I'm tired. And my dad really didn't understand, because it's like my dad don't get tired sometimes, it seems like. And like, just to know like how much stress she was under running a business and stuff like that, and kids and all of that. But me, I've always been a diva. My mom has a picture. We could probably insert the picture of me throwing a fit because she told me to take off my heels. Always been a diva and always been very strong. Always been a little leader. My father does call me Bam Bam, just like the Flintstones. I was a strong ass baby. Like, I was a strong baby. You should shake my crib to get out of it. So yeah, at the daycare, I had so much fun, like with my cousins. Like, all of my cousins was at the daycare because it was really a family-owned business. So we would spend the summer together. We would be at my auntie's house together. We would be like traveling together if my aunties would, do like a little trip with us. We would definitely get in trouble together. I was always like the favorite when it came to my aunties, and because we were always at the daycare together, we would also spend summers and the weekends, every now and then together. So I was my auntie's sugar baby, and they always did so much for us. My auntie Choice. And they did a lot of they bought us like CDs players, and they bought us like little candies, and they took us to Miami and stuff like that. So a big chunk of my childhood was spent at that daycare center, or at least surrounding it, for my elementary. And I was honestly very upset in middle school, and when I wasn't at the daycare as much, or when summers looked a little differently. So yeah, it was just a little, I don't know, growing up, I was kind of like not looking forward to growing up, because I really love being around just my family, my cousins and stuff like that. But when I did go to school, I ended up going, when I went to elementary, I would say, I didn't want to go. Like, I acted a plump fool going to elementary. Like, I used to throw fits. I didn't want to eat the food. None of that. Like, my father would come for lunch. Like, it was that bad because I really didn't want to, like, just kind of going back to like me entering school. But once I ended up transferring from a private school to like a public elementary, and once I actually what was her name, Miss King was my kindergarten teacher, and once I entered her class, I stopped acting a plump fool, and I was able to make friends and things like that. And throughout elementary, I made friends very easily. I've always had great grades, always done well in class. I did get in trouble for cheating in the first grade, and it was this girl, and I knew she was like, she was a little bit more, I would say, like masculine, and I was like, she was a little on the rougher side, and I was just like so mad at her, and I've always had just something against her because she got me in trouble. But it taught me a lot, like in elementary, just like about just being a good person. So I was able to kind of show up for my friends. My father always took me to like my friends' like parties and things like that. But in school, although I had great grades, I did struggle. So I struggled with reading and like fluency with reading, and that kind of is what feeds my reading anxiety today, because like we were always timed when we were reading. FCAT, in here in Florida, FCAT was a huge part of like our curriculum and us prepping and stuff like that. So not being able to read fast and not being able to like comprehend fast, like it was something that I struggled with. And although again I was doing awesome in school, it was just really like hard to like keep up with like, okay, you need to read this in a minute, you need to do this in an hour and stuff like that. So I would say that's where the struggle started to kind of happen in school, or that was like probably my greatest struggle in school, was like keeping up with reading at such a fast pace. So I really avoided it at all costs. Like I did not want to read out loud, and if I did, I would prepare, like if we're going in order, I would like read the paragraph beforehand, make sure I know all the words. And then when it's time for me, or if we're doing popcorn reading, I would hate that because they can call you at any time. So that was one of the things that I really did not like about my elementary, is because it was so focused on like speed and comprehension, where I really kind of felt like a failure when I didn't like pass the FCAT or get a higher level in FCAT. It wasn't like pass or fail, it was just like levels. But yeah, I was ready for middle school. I ended up going to middle school, like ready and still, on my grade level, never had to be held back or anything. But it was very important for me to know like that's one of my weaknesses. But in elementary, I did begin to understand that I was not like other children. So I've always been a bigger girl. And in elementary, that's where like the slight bullying started. And I'll never forget, like it was this young boy that like would always mess with me, call me fat, call me names, call me things like that in front of his friends. But like, like in other like spaces, his last name was F and my last name start with a D. So he would stand behind me in like 5th grade, 4th grade. And like he would kind of like pinch my butt a little bit. And I'm like, you think of me in this way with all your friends watching, but like, you kind of want to pinch my butt or sit next to me in art. And I feel like that really started my awareness that I was in a bigger body and that I was taller, I was thicker, I was fat, things like that. So that's where I really got self-conscious about how I looked, what I wore, what I was doing, like if I should get up, if I shouldn't get up, because that shame really started. So that started early in my childhood, the shame of my body and the shame of just men, out in the open versus behind closed doors. But going into middle school, I began to really develop a shell. So I knew, okay, I'm not as good at like reading tests. I'm fat and I am going to a new school. So I need to be very tough, like up front. And I always knew I was very smart. So I could make friends with using my grades and using like, okay, this is my classwork. If they need help, I can help, So in ninth grade, I was not ninth grade, in middle school, like, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade. I remember second week of school, teacher was calling names, doing roster, and doing attendance. And when she called my name, I just said here, just like everybody else. And it was a young boy, we'll call him Rob. And he, like when she called my name, he said something under his breath. And immediately I was like, if you don't have the balls to say it out loud, don't say it at all. Whole class is like, oh, because this is like probably the second day, maybe second day, second week, one of those like early times where she's just getting to know the names because she's saying them pretty slow. And like the whole class is like, ooh, ah, oh my God, but I felt like I needed to do that, and I needed to have very witty and like, strong comebacks, because I had to start getting rid of elementary Desiree, who was very naive, who was really sweet, who was really nice, who loved to make friends, and transform into Desiree, who was protective. So middle school, I became a very protective person. Like I was battling like me being friendly versus me being like a pushover. And I remember this girl, I'll call her Z, she used to ask me for $1 very often. And my parents, they've done very well for themselves. I'm never gonna claim that I grew up broke and in no struggle. They're both educated, they both have doctorate degrees, so I don't come from like true humble beginnings. So my parents at least sent me to school with, money or, just things because I had to pay for lunch, which is crazy, by the way. But she would ask me for $1 very often. And one day I said no. And I was like everything under the sun because I wouldn't give her $1 or because I wouldn't give her gum anymore. And that's when I really started to decipher, okay, I have friends because there's an appearance that I may have a little bit more, or I have gum, or I have the answers in school. So I began to try to navigate like really standing up for myself. But that translated into who I was becoming, and I was being very defensive with my teachers and things like that. And I remember I had a teacher, Miss Milton, she pulled me aside after class one day, because I was talking and like finished with my work, and I guess I didn't want to stop talking, or I gave her like some back talk. And she said, Desiree, you're really smart, but you need to get your attitude the hell together. Like, you're not going to make it anywhere with an attitude. So that protective person that I was becoming was spilling over into how I treated everyone, and not like, just the people that need it. So that conversation honestly changed my perspective a little bit, with, okay, let me be mindful of how I'm speaking to adults. Let me be mindful of how I'm speaking to like people that actually are watching out for me. And let me just address who is not, watching out for me, I would say. So yeah, middle school was great. I was always hanging out. I always hung out with older girls, like 7th grade, 8th grade, when I was in 6th grade. I actually did start doing sports in middle school. I did volleyball for after school, and it was, just us doing volleyball, and I started doing track. So I did volleyball in middle school just as a after school thing, and then we started going to tournaments and things like that just to actually like play with the after school teams. And I really enjoyed it. I'm a very competitive person, so that was really fun. And then I also started track. So I started doing shot put and discus. So I did that not just in like middle school, but I started throwing, I became a thrower in middle school for Florida Elite Track Club. And that's here in Orlando, and they're all over and things like that, over the state of Florida. But that was fun. Like, it really felt like, okay, I can use this big body that I'm in to do something. You know what I'm saying? So volleyball, it was fun, but I think shot put and discus was like even more fun because I had more control of like how I did. So that's what I continued to do. And even going into high school, I thought I was going to do volleyball, but I did not. I ended up just sticking with track and field. But yeah, like middle school, I would say I began to just learn about like guys and boys and friends and things like that. And it really taught me like, continue to work on your relationships. But like, don't have sex, don't watch your attitude. Like, I really learned a lot about myself in middle school when it came to like who I was becoming. But it was still hard, like as a fat girl in middle school. Like it was hard because I had this friend with this nice body, big old booty, always getting attention. I had these older friends that like were extremely popular. I still follow them today. And I was just like the cute fat girl, that's like smart. So I fit in those groups, and I really felt like I did, but it never fit, I guess, like from a outward perspective. So again, I was that friend of the group that was a very like protective person. And I was always like very quick. I think that's when the anger in me like was brewing, because I was like, I needed an outlet, and through sports it happened. But sometimes, I had to blow up on a bitch, but it's cool, neither here nor there. I never got in big trouble in middle school. It was more like, oh, you got a dress code violation or something like that. But high school. So entering high school, one, I want to start with sports. Let's start with the high school I went to. So I thought I was going to go to Edgewater. Edgewater was like right down the street from my middle school where all my friends were going. And like I said, I'm in Pine Hills. And if you know anything about Pine Hills, Maynard Evans is right around the corner from my home and pretty much anywhere in the Pine Hills zip code. And my father decided to like say, okay, hey, she's going to Evans. And the whole summer I cried. Like the whole summer I cried because I had all these plans with all my friends. And again, I'm in a bigger body, and Evans had just got rebuilt. We got a new principal. We had uniforms, and the uniform thing alone like almost put me into a depression, because I was like, I cannot believe I have to be in this body and have to be uniformed, knowing polo shirts don't look good on us big girls. They really don't. And I didn't know like how that would work. So I cried. My mom, honestly, like, she was getting tired of me crying. Like, I was distraught that I had to go to a school that I didn't plan on going. But I'll say it was the best decision that my father could have ever made, my parents could have ever made. And although at the time they weren't together, they did separate when I was in middle school. Like it was a pivotal moment in my like sports journey, like my education, and really just overall in the impact. So first day of school, I was at Evans, and I definitely started to make friends. And I remember my coaches at Evans, which was one of the reasons why my dad wanted me to go to Evans, because my uncle was there as a deputy sheriff, of his, the people that he knew at the school. So just the protection aspect of like, I need to be somewhere, one, closer, and two, where, we know people. And, Evans High School was a ball. Like, it was a ball. Yes, we fought. The principal was so strict. She did not play around, because Evans was a really a school that a lot of kids didn't want to go to before, because of all the fighting and stabbings and crime and dress code. It was a lot going on at Evans before it was rebuilt. So when they cleaned up their grade and got the new building and got new administration, it was a different feel out there from what I experienced just being in the community, and also like experience like with people that were at the prior school. So once I got there, I was doing very well in school, very well with my grades. I ended up passing the FCAT before my senior year, so I didn't have to worry about that. But my coaches very early on in ninth grade told me, you're not playing volleyball, you need to do weightlifting. So I began doing weightlifting and doing track, because it was, condition. The weightlifting was conditioning for my track career. And throughout that entire time, like, we did club track, which was like started February, and then me and my sister, we made nationals a few times, so it would end around July. And conditioning for track would be the second week of school. So I was doing track and field and conditioning for track and field year round. So that was every year and things like that. And I remember first year in track, I had my teammate Magina, who she is a state champion of Florida, in weightlifting. And she was such an amazing person, an amazing teammate. Like, I love her down. Like, she is just she taught me a lot about like hard work and like dedication and like, like really like taking care of your body and working out. Like, she was someone that I looked up to, and someone that I still look up to, because she was like, a junior on the team. And we had so many other, like, our relay team was amazing, like metro, district, state champions. Like, all of my track teammates really made track fun, because track is an individual sport, but it is a team sport when you see each other grinding, and of course the team aspect of points. So to see Magina, she had gotten hurt, and then she like was able to come back and do so many great things. It really inspired me, and a lot of people saw like how strong I was becoming, and it was like, okay, dynamic duo. When we walk in the building, like, they already know in the unlimited weight class, which was my weight class, I'm the freshman on the block that people are looking at. And then they know, okay, Magina, this is her junior year. She grinding. She's bound to be a state champion and bound to be an amazing thrower. So it was great, like, winning in, my father called me and my sister 2 chains, because we did 2 events. And anytime we didn't get 2 chains, he would be like, remember this feeling. So I just told my company that I work for, like, get used to winning, because I've been a winner all my life. And it feels good to win, and sometimes it's never me. It's all God, you know. So it feels good to have God's favor. But yeah, in high school, I did very well. I actually was able to continue doing track throughout every year. Did weightlifting every year. Again, never did volleyball. Straight A's my senior year, straight A's junior year. The other years, A's and B's. I was able to balance the aggression a little bit. I did get in a fight actually the week before my state meet. So the only year I didn't go to state in weightlifting was because I slapped the bitch. And because she disrespected me. Okay, so I ended up slapping her ass after she tried to pull my hair. So, hey, you know what I'm saying? Every now and then you gotta slap a bitch. But it's okay. So, but yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about like the weightlifting journey. After that happened and my father, like, he came up to the school and was like, we can't like prolong or like delay the suspension until Monday. I was kind of locked in, and I wasn't necessarily locked in because I needed to be. It's because I wanted to be, because one, I wanted to make it to state again and show all that I could do, but also because junior year, it was just me. Magina had graduated. So when I was sophomore, it's like, but like junior year, like she was graduating, she was leaving. So it was like, okay, you're a junior now, like you're not the freshman on the block. You are doing this, like, So I came in benching very high. I wasn't always the best at clean and jerk, but I benched like over 200, probably all my sophomore year. And then my junior year, I was over 200, benching pretty consistently, like all lifts, never really scratching a lift. In my senior year, I was able to like really locked in. I never dropped any weight my entire year. I didn't drop any weight. I didn't scratch any lifts. And I made it to state. And when I did go to state, I had the pleasure, and like the week before, it was like I had a blank, like I just blanked out. And I was dropping weight and things like that in practice. And I tried like 270. And it was just like, dang, I didn't even get 270 in practice. So when I went to my state meet in high school, again, grades and shit, that was like so easy, so cake, like, did my work, respect my teachers, keep it going. But I was really there for like, the grind. So going into state, I was like kind of confident. We started with like 265 for my state meet. Again, I didn't get 270 that week before. I hadn't dropped any weight that whole year. And that week before in practice, I dropped some weight. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. And I did 265 on the bench. I got it. It was a good lift. And then my second lift, I tried 270, and me and my dad were down there. And my uncle, he was also my coach. So my uncle was like, he couldn't be down there, but he was there as well. And they had trained me throughout the entire, like my entire high school journey. So them being there with me, my father and my uncle, it was like dynamic to have them. Was their best friends. So literally do 270. I'm shocked that I got it, but it went up very easily. It went up very, very easy. And my father, he was like, okay, what you want to do next? And I'm like, whatever you put on the bar. So he's like, okay. So he goes to the judges, tells them the weight that I am going to. And again, at this point, I've been a heavy lifter all my high school career. And once you get to a certain weight, like there's nobody else going against you in that weight. So I was pretty much lifting by myself at that point because everybody had finished their lift and I was lifting the heaviest in bench. So father, he tells them, and then I hear an announcement like, and now we have Desiré Davis trying to tie the state like weight at 280. And I'm like, oh my gosh, cool, let's get it. So, and it's crazy because I'll take you back to like ninth grade when I was just looking up like stats for weightlifting in Florida. And there was a young lady who was benching she benched 280. And I was looking at her progression and I'm like, there's no way a girl is benching 280 in high school. Fast forward, and now we have Desiree. So it was like I was matching her record. So I got on the bench, same technique, brought it down, brought it up. The crowd went nuts. My dad went nuts. If I didn't have the weight would have dropped down because as a weightlifter, you have somebody rack the weight for you. My dad went crazy. I got up. I was boohoo crying. It was just like, damn, I just lifted this shit. So, and like the Orlando Sentinel was there. They did an interview and they got my name wrong in the article actually, so change that. But like it was a movie. Like it felt like a movie in that bitch. Like, oh my God, what in the Coach Carter is happening? But yeah, that was fun. And that was like one of the highlights of weightlifting. And then it was time for track. Like, all right, cool, state, good. I actually came second in the state for overall, one bench, and I came second in clean and jerk. We actually tied, me and the girl, we tied, but because she weighed less than me, she won, which is like, okay, cool, girl, whatever, you won. But congratulations to her. But yeah, so yeah, that was like the pinnacle of like weightlifting, and then it was track time. And track, like, there was a love-hate relationship with track because it's hot, first of all, here in Florida, and also like just the up and down with trying to figure out techniques. I tried so many techniques with shot put, it wasn't even funny. I made a half spin, we did the glide, we did a shuffle, we tried to do a full spin. My father had me go to a specialist, like he really invested so much time and money into me. And my sister, she had, stopped doing track in the middle when I was in high school. But like, he invested so much time, so much energy, into track. And it was just like, it's very humbling, especially as an adult. Like, I barely have time for myself sometimes. And like, to know that my dad spent so much time with us and like coaching us, and then being a father, and then owning businesses, and then, parents had went through the divorce like in middle school. So like, to know that he was there. And like, we traveled, we were always traveling over the summer. He took us to so many different places, like just to have us exposed to different places. And even when my parents were together, we went to like DC and North Carolina and South Carolina. Like, my parents exposed me to so much. So when I say winning, like, get used to winning, it's not just a sports thing. Like, I've been winning all my life, and some of it is my parents, some of it was me, some of it was just, just who I was around. But it was really great having my father as my coach. And yes, we had some rifts because we are very similar. But also in other times, like he would be like, look, if you're not feeling good, we'll leave. You know, if your back hurt, you don't gotta stay out here. Like, it's too hot. Here's water. Like, he's used to wait on us hand and foot. I'm talking towel, chair, water, making sure he gets something to eat. Like, he was not one of those fathers, you know, or coaches. And even during like high school and middle school, after the split of my parents, I did stay with my mom. And then in high school, I ended up moving to my dad's house. And there was a little time where me and my mom just weren't on the same page. But in high school, when I was over my father's house, like, we had a lot of fun. Like, we had a lot of fun. And even in track, like, just knowing, and he also used to always tell me, like, your mental toughness will get you through everything. Like, you're stronger than everyone around you. We know that. You're tougher than everyone around you, prettier than everyone around you. But if you are in a space mentally, no one can touch you. And I've taken that with me along the way. Stats were up and down with track. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I think I threw like 39 feet or something like that, actually, at Bob Haynes Invitational. That's in Jacksonville, Florida. Shout out to Duval. Both my best friends are from Duval. I like threw that, and like everyone in Miami, everyone coming out of Miami were fierce throwers, fierce runners, fierce jumpers. So we knew we're gonna see the Miami crew at that meet. So I ended up like getting ahead of them with that one throw.
Walk out the back.
First seed of the boys, 800 meters.
39.7.
11 and a half.
11 and a half. Good job, baby.
That one throw put me ahead of them, and they were like, oh, because I was like, on average, you know, when I was in high school, 35, maybe get a 36 every now and then, where I can kind of stay in the top 5, top 6, top 8, whatever. I make it to regionals. Never really made it to state for track like that, but I made it to nationals in club track. But once I was a senior, I was like, Dad, I don't want to do track in college. Like, I'm good. And he was talking to some recruiters, talking to some people, and I'm like, I'm good. I just want to go to school. So, and I had the grades to do so. Like I said, I was straight A student at that point. And high school, I did run for Junior Princess my junior year. And so I was doing that as well, like running and doing Royal Court. I lost, but I did come back my senior year and run for Homecoming Queen, which high school, like I said, grades were good. I was good at track, good at weightlifting. But running for Homecoming Queen, it was like a taking a chance on myself because I had lost the year before. But I'm like, why not? People know me now, you know, they've been knowing me, but now you know I can do something else. Ran for Homecoming Queen, and I was actually running against someone who, my best friend at the time, that was her best friend. And we used to be real close, but then, you know, she did some fuck shit, I ain't gonna lie. And I was like, I can't really deal with her like that. So it ended up being like me and her running against each other for Homecoming Queen. And you know who won. You know who won. But it was kind of interesting, again, like her running mate was a basketball player, did very, very good at basketball. I'm not sure if he got recruited or anything. He was really good at basketball, and our basketball team was like really great, like state champions. So her having that running mate and me not having a running mate, it really made me feel like, oh my gosh, like maybe I'm not gonna. But my friends, my family, they were helping me like put stuff together, make posters, get candy. I was selling chips, giving out chips and stuff. So yeah, so when we were on the actual field, like to get announced as like royal court, which they don't tell you before you go on the field, you just know you're a finalist. It was me and her running mate who had to walk together. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in heels. I'm tall. This freaking like football field is a little, it wasn't the best. So I'm like, he's not gonna hold me up, because in practice he wasn't holding me up. So I'm like, if I fall, I'm going down. And when they called him, they crowned him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if she wins, because she was a dancer, I'm like, the whole band gonna go crazy. And I'm thinking like, man, I'm probably not gonna win, because, again, she has the dancer, she got the band. But my track team, my weightlifting team, my theater crew, everybody that loved me came through. Everybody that ate my chips, I know y'all ate my chips just to whatever, but they called my name, and I was just like, what? And they crowned me, and I could tell he was mad. I don't care. But yeah, I won homecoming queen, and that just kind of, give you that story because it's also the other side of me. A lot of people thought when I did weightlifting and track and all of that, they looked at me as not masculine, but very intimidating. Again, I'm 5'9", I'm big. At that point, I was over 400 pounds in high school. Like, I am, just intimidating, whatever. Black woman, whatever, young woman. So, yeah, it was definitely different for me to win homecoming queen. And I was all up and through that yearbook. I was definitely all the way through that yearbook for weightlifting, track, homecoming, and theater. I did theater, which I'm a thespian, Troop 690. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. I started in one of the plays and did tech and costume for the plays. But I actually started in a play called Fat Pig, which was about a guy who had broke up with his girlfriend and everything like that, and got a new girlfriend, and she was on the bigger side. And my drama teacher, she wanted me to play. She said, I've never had someone like a plus size, young lady that with your talent, and I want you to read this. If you like it, we're going to do it for districts. And I'm like, absolutely. The play had me in tears. I read it in one night. Neil Simon, Fat Pig. I read it in one night, and I said, absolutely, I will take this role. And she said, well, you're casted. We just got to figure out your co-castman, your castmate. So we had a reading, she ended up picking, people and things like that. And yeah, so we took that to districts. Hey, and the tech team got a superior. So that is what's up. But yeah, I did like a Christmas play. I played Mrs. Claus. Like I said, I did like costume and makeup for God's favorite. So I really love theater. So that just tells you the different sides of me: theater kid side, weightlifter, homecoming queen. Again, get used to winning. So I'm gonna stop there, cause y'all can't handle college, boo. Y'all can't. Y'all really can't. But yeah. Throughout all of that, I did have some losses in my family. So I was pretty familiar with loss as a child. And so I definitely take a moment of silence for my grandmother, my grandma Nene, my grandfather, my great grandfather, my uncle, who was my father's only brother, who he was sick for a long time, and he actually came to live with us, when right before my parents got divorced. So this was in middle school. My auntie Helen, who passed away, and all of those people were on my father's side. And also my father, even in high school, as I said, my father being like my coach, my dad, like everything to me, he ended up getting sick. And making a full recovery by the grace of God. And like, I give a moment of silence for them, because they made me stronger. And every piece of legacy that they left for the Davis legacy, the Sampson and Davis legacy, I've picked up those pieces of strength throughout my entire high school, middle school, elementary, years. So I thank you to every educator as well. But yeah, I'll go into my silence. Thank y'all. Again, thank you to every educator that poured into me. Y'all are the true angels of this world. There are teachers, Miss Fields. I still have Miss Fields on Facebook. Coach Carter, who coached our track team. Miss King, my elementary teacher. My kindergarten teacher, Miss Hill, third grade. She did not play about math. Yeah, I really, really appreciate y'all for everything that y'all do. Like, educators don't get enough love, and I just want to take the moment to truly shout out the educators. Both of my parents have been educators and worked in the school system, OCPS, which is Orange County Public Schools specifically. So I thank everyone that pours into young people like me, and have developed us to be what we are today. So maybe that's why I'm so lit, because both my parents are educators. Like, they did not play, honey. But yeah, I love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in to the first episode of Desiré Defined. It's all over the place, but are you doing it or am I doing it? Well, thank y'all. Bye.